5 reasons I hate the UFC. Now, before we get to this, I need you to stay to the end of the video because point number 5 is the most important point and also the one that we need your help with. Number 1, their business model, quote unquote, is to underpay fighters. Dana actually said this. You can see it online in a YouTube video, him complaining that boxers are just making too much money and they just run around each other trying not to fight all day. So his fix for this is to underpay fighters, pay them as little as possible so that they're starving and will fight anyone, anywhere, at any time. And not only make those terrible decisions to just fight anybody, but also to fight them in the dumbest manner possible. What he does is he keeps your pay around $12,000 if you lose so that you will fight and risk your neck and your brain health for the rest of your life to win $50,000. You want to make 5 times what you're making right now? Here's the carrot. Go get knocked out. They don't like people that have good defense. We already made a video on it. Dana hates defense. Dana hates grappling. He doesn't like it when people aren't just out there 50-50 position, chucking overhands and left hooks until somebody dies. Kill or be killed. That's why he actually likes the Diaz brothers. That's why he loves that Just Bleed guy that everybody clowns on. He wants you to die. Now that bonus money that you're fighting for, that we've all fought for, this happened to me as well. I got the fight of the night in my very first UFC fight ever and then had horrible brain damage afterward, concussive symptoms for like a year. I had to sit on the shelf and all of the bonus got eaten up by my living expenses. The money for that bonus is already supposed to be yours. You should be getting paid that just to show up and fight. None of this split purse garbage. That wouldn't happen in boxing. They have the Ali Act, but we'll get to that. You should be paid a flat fee for your fight. It should be a whole lot more money than they're paying. When the company is making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year and all of the athletes are starving, at least except for like 5, you know there's a damn problem. Number 2, they are like Don King on steroids. Everybody knows Don King was a sleazebag. The guy did a whole bunch of shady shit with fighters and he locked up a few different weight classes. He had exclusive contracts with a bunch of fighters in each weight class in order to make sure that no matter who won the fight, he would control the title and would be able to promote the next title fight. Now, he only had a couple weight classes under his control. How many weight classes does Dana White have under his control? Every single weight class. Every weight class. Women, men, he has every single weight class. He owns the top 10 of every single weight class. And we know this because in the documents that were produced in Kung Lee versus Zuffa antitrust monopoly case, Joe Silva pointed out that they had almost every single weight class's top 10. And then he said to Dana White, in this email, we have the email, we own MMA. If that was Don King saying, we own boxing, we have the top 10, everybody'd be like, oh man, this guy's such a sleazebag. Why is Don King so bad? Yet Dana White, like if Don King could have Dana White's business model right now, that was his goal. So a lot of you guys are gonna be like, there's PFL, there's ONE FC, clearly he doesn't have a monopoly. Really? Do you know the numbers? The UFC produces about 3% of the MMA fights in the world. 3%. They make 90% of the revenue. The executives make it, not the fighters, the executives. How is that not a monopoly? They have market share. They have control of the market. It's not disputed. These are proven facts, and you can see it via the Kung Lee lawsuit. That's why they settled for $375 million. You don't settle for $375 million if you're in the right and not doing anything wrong. That doesn't happen. So, if you're not already convinced, the actual tactic that allows them to control the fighters and control the entire sport is them having exclusive contracts with all fighters. Long-term, coercive, exclusive contracts while controlling the ranking and the title. If they can do those two things, then they can control the entire sport. They can lock up all of the best fighters for a long time, and then if you want to get access to fight those fighters, which is the only way that anybody ever becomes the best fighter, is by beating who the public already considers the best fighter. If you want to do that, you have to sign with them for whatever they want to give you. Now, say I am the number 3 ranked guy or the number 2 ranked guy, and I'm about to fight for the title, but I don't want to sign a 10-fight exclusive contract. They can make sure that I never get that title shot. If I don't sign a huge contract, a long-term contract, then I will never get a title shot. Now, say I do sign that. I sign, okay, your 10-fight deal or your 3-fight deal or however many fights they want. Okay, now I get my title shot. Now I win my fight. I can't take that belt and leave. Why? Because I signed a long-term exclusive contract. The last example that I'm going to use here is a good friend of mine, Rory McDonald. Rory fought for the welterweight title against Robbie Lawler, and everybody knows that was like the fight of the century. It really affected both of their careers and their health moving forward. It was an insane fight. If you haven't seen it, you should go and watch it, but I hope you have a strong stomach because it's brutal. Rory was still, I think, ranked number 2 or ranked number 3 after losing that fight. He then decided he was going to go to Bellator, right? He ran his contract out and he went to Bellator. Now, what was he ranked after going to Bellator? He was unranked because the UFC controls the ranking. So it's not an actual sport when they get to control who moves up and who moves down. There's no merit there. Why do you think Conor got a title shot so quickly? Why do you think they were able to just feed him the people that he could beat easily? It's because it's not an actual sport. It's not a merit-based sport. This company is so toxic. And if you stay to the end of the video, you're going to understand how deep the well goes. Number 3, if you tell the truth, if you speak up about this toxic company's business practices and how they are affecting you and the rest of the fighters in the world negatively, you will not fight there. You will be cut. You will be denied your opportunity to be considered the best in the sport. Now, I know this very viscerally because I lived it. When I was in the UFC, I was a part of a unionizing organization called Project Spearhead. I was the vice president. Leslie Smith was the president. Shortly after starting this, both of our heads got cut off and we were no longer with the company. Now, I was also vocal throughout my career in interviews. I even did that Dana White handshake fake. Some of you saw that. Now, the way that they treated me after I started vocalizing versus before is very easy to see. Before I started talking, I was given opponents that were quite easy for me to beat. After I started talking, they would give me the best guys they could that no one knew, which to me was a blessing because I wanted to fight the best anyway, which is why I wanted to fight Islam when they gave it to me, which is why I wanted to fight Martins because he had just knocked out Islam and I knew that was a good fight, which it was because I knocked him out. Now, after Leslie Smith got cut, even though she had not run out her contract, had not lost a fight, she got cut because she refused to fight a girl that didn't make weight. If the person doesn't make weight, we don't have to take the fight. That's my health and well-being. You have to follow the rules. And they cut her because she was organizing a union. It wasn't because the person didn't make weight and they didn't like that she didn't want to fight them. Maybe that's not, they weren't pumped on that, but they don't cut people for that. They cut her because she was the head of the union. The NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, knew that her case had merit. She brought it to them and they decided they were going to open an investigation on the UFC. Within a week, Dana White flies to the White House. He takes a couple pictures with Mr. Donald Trump with a UFC belt on the White House desk during Donald's first term. And magically, on Monday, the NLRB case against the UFC is no longer at the head office of the NLRB. It's brought to Washington. And then, oh, I guess it has no merit. Sorry, Leslie. Bye-bye. See you next never. They will oppress you. you. If you say the truth, they will punish you. This is why all the fighters are on their knees begging Dana White, thanking Dana White, thanking Sean Shelby. Thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity. Please, can I have the bonus? I knocked the guy out. I have brain damage now, so I won't be able to fight for the next year and a half. Please. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. I could not do that when I was signed, but I do not hate on fighters that do, because I know how long that we worked to get into that spot. I know how dear it is to our heart in order to be in that octagon, in order to have the opportunity to be considered the best in the world, and they don't have another choice. That's the only choice if you want to be considered the top. I knew that when I started talking that they would try everything they could, but I also knew that I was the best fighter in the world, so I said, bring it on. And then they fed me to the Russians, and I ran my contract out, and that was that. If I would have won, it would have worked, but I lost, and that's on me. But what is not on me is the systematic oppression of all martial artists. And you'll see, if you stay to the end of the video, that this is only continued. Number 4, Dana White's bum buddy Donald Trump. I'm not mad at Donald Trump for being Donald Trump. This is not me here talking about all of his political policies and how he conducts himself as the president. I'm concerned with mixed martial artists. I'm talking about how Donald Trump lends his support to Dana White and continues Dana White's monopolist control over the entire industry. You saw this when I talked about the Leslie Smith case and the NLRB. That was during his first term. Dana White's power is incredible in this industry. He has actually placed little worms of his in the Trump administration. Stephen Chung used to be the director of public communications and affairs for the UFC. He is now the director of communications for the Trump administration. Dana has viciously controlled the media. No one will speak out against him. This is why you see no coverage on any major MMA platform, save maybe Luke Thomas and John Nash, which aren't really mainstream MMA platforms. No one is talking about these cases. Nobody is talking about the monopolist power that the UFC has and how toxic that is for all of us martial artists that have to suffer under it. And that's because Mr. Stephen Chung had a very specific method to how he was controlling the narrative. If you show up as a journalist to a UFC event and you are not towing the line, if you are asking the questions that actually need to be asked, you will not come back. Similar to how Dana deals with the fighters. If you talk, if you tell the truth, you're not coming back. And we've seen this time and time again. This is why the media just gobbles the knob. Now, Stephen Chung is doing the exact same thing in the Trump administration White House. That's why if you see the press conferences, if you see the interviews of Donald Trump within the White House, they're very similar. All of the journalists are gobbling the knob. Nobody is pushing back. If you do push back, you get a very narcissistic, angry response from the president, and then you will never be allowed in the room again. It's quite obvious that Donald Trump is also very focused on controlling the media. Now, these ties lead me to my next point. Point number 5. They are trying to control every single martial artist in the world. Control and enslave. Continue their business model of underpaying fighters in order to maximize profits. Continue to have long-term, coercive, exclusive contracts with the promotion so they cannot cross-promote. They have no leverage in order to do so, in order to move back and forth or create bidding wars for their services. They have taken over or are in the middle of taking over jiu-jitsu. And there's not even much pushback. It's not even very difficult for them to do this because ADCC is already underpaying their athletes. Because of that practice, it's very easy for Dana White to swoop in and pay them peanuts to sign exclusive contracts, and now they're only fighting for UFC BJJ. Now, the only person in the world right now that has the ability to save jiu-jitsu is Craig Jones. Craig Jones has created CJI, which is the only organization that is actually paying jiu-jitsu athletes properly, giving them something to actually fight for that can create wealth, that can stop them from having to break their bodies over and over and over and over again for peanuts in order to enjoy their life as a martial artist. So Craig Jones, if you're listening to this, thank you. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, my platform is yours. my voice is yours. Now for the main event, the Muhammad Ali Boxing Revival Act. The UFC is attempting to take over boxing. They're not trying to start promoting boxing and compete with all of the other fighters, compete with Top Rank. They're not trying to do that. They are trying to create their UFC monopolist business model within boxing. But boxing has the Ali Act. Because of people like Don King, because of federations like the IBC, boxing has a law to protect the fighters. The Ali Act makes sure there are no long-term exclusive contracts. That's illegal in boxing, unlike MMA. They make sure that the promoter does not control rank and title. You can't have your own title. You need an independent ranking system from a sanctioning body. And yes, we know that the sanctioning bodies have problems, but that's a different problem, and this bill doesn't solve any of those problems. It's a dead talking point. The Ali Act prevents this monopolist business model from existing in boxing. This is why Canelo Alvarez is being paid so much money. This is why all boxers make more than all MMA fighters. And we know that. We know that because of the discovery that's happened within the Kung Lee versus Zuffa case. We know it deeply. In order for the UFC to come into boxing and have their same monopolist power, they need to find a way to get around the Ali Act. You can even hear Ari Emanuel talking about this. You can find this on YouTube. I forget what the podcast is, but I'm sure you can find it. He has said there's problems with boxing. The main problem is the Ali Act. We're not sure what's going to happen with that, but we're not really ready to get in until something happens with the Ali Act. And then, oh, look at this. American Boxing Revival Act. The American Boxing Revival Act was created for TKO to take over. That's very, very, very clear if you read this thing. It has got some Trojan horse window dressing on it. They're saying that, oh yeah, we're going to have a minimum per round for boxers of $150. Most boxers are at least making $150 a round already, so that doesn't really need to happen, and you don't need to do all of this UBO model in order to have it happen. They're also saying that they're going to increase the amount of insurance necessary if you want to have a professional boxing card. Those aren't horrible, but they really don't move the needle that much, because the amount of medical insurance that you would already need to have in order to run a boxing organization, at least in the state of California, is already more than the minimums that are set forth in this Boxing Revival Act. So there's like two things that are like pro fighter, and then everybody's like, oh, just talking about that. The real purpose is to allow the monopolists to come into boxing and create their same business model. They want to create what's called a UBO, a Unified Boxing Organization. The UBO will be allowed to control the ranks. They don't have to use sanctioning bodies. They can have their own ranking system. They can have their own title that is directly tied to their platform. A fighter cannot win it and leave with it. They are allowed to have coercive contracts with every fighter. Every fighter, in order to fight for a UBO, has to sign a long-term exclusive contract. So the UFC is trying to say that this is just another choice. We want to give them the choice. They don't have to sign with a UBO. They can sign with anyone. But their plan is to sign all of the big dogs, all of the best fighters in every weight class, just like they did in MMA. And then after they have all of the big dogs, even if they pay them more than everybody else, because that's what they would have to do to sign those first wave, then everybody else that isn't signed with them, if they want to be the best in the world, will have to sign with the UBO. And now the UBO can pay them whatever, because there's nowhere else to become the champion. Well, not any championship that matters. How many of you can tell me who the Bellator champions were? Can you tell me who the PFL champions were? Can you tell me who the ONE FC champions are? I highly doubt it. That's because those organizations do not matter. You cannot become the best in the world in Bellator, in PFL, Bellator's gone, PFL, in ONE FC. You cannot, even if you are the most skilled. It doesn't matter. No one knows. You have to beat the best in order to become the best. So if they lock up the best, which they will, that they will be able to monopolize the entire sport, and this is their plan, to monopolize the entire sport. We know it because we've lived it. This is exactly what happened in MMA, because MMA did not have the Ali Act. The Fertitta brothers knew this when they started. I believe Lorenzo actually sat on the Nevada State Athletic Commission when he was approached by Dana White. He then resigned from that Athletic State Commission, knowing full well how the Ali Act prevents Dana from getting into boxing. And they created the UFC, and they used their monopolist tactics to enslave all of the MMA fighters. Now Dana is trying to do it in boxing, and he will probably succeed because there's almost no one fighting against him. I and others like me are fighting, but we need your help. The MMAFA is an organization that was created a few decades ago and comprises a few MMA fighters and a few lawyers. And we are the only ones that are standing in the way of this machine taking over all martial artists, enslaving all martial artists. If you look in the description, there is a link for you to click to sign a petition. There's currently about 1,000 signatures, and we need to bring that to 10,000 to 20,000 to 100,000 signatures. We need to show that the population of MMA fans and MMA fighters is against this American Boxing Revival Act. We need to show that we do not accept this type of monopolist behavior. We need to stand up for the men and the women who are bleeding for our entertainment. We need you to fight for the fighters. This video is a call to action. This video is a call for you to join the resistance, to help the Mixed Martial Artists Fighters Association and all of the men and women who are giving up their livelihoods and their futures in order to ensure the next generation is not enslaved. We need your help. Click the link below, sign the petition. If you're located in the United States, please reach out to your congressman, reach out to your senator. Tell them that you do not support this bill, because Dana White and Donald Trump have already planned to pass this very quickly. It is almost guaranteed to pass because the House in the States is now very Republican dominant. They only need a few Democrats. Because of Dana's relationship with Trump, it is guaranteed that all of the red side is going to vote yes for this bill. The California State Athletic Commission has already signed on their support unanimously, even though many of us at the MMAFA had called in during their public meeting and voiced our opposal. They had some worms from the UFC that were on the calls as well and were voicing their support for the bill. People like Forrest Griffin, people like Chris Lieben, and even, this broke a lot of people's heart, but Big John McCarthy called in and voiced his support for this disgusting bill. John, I thought you were better. You really disappointed me. After you met me in that parking lot and you told me how proud of me you were for standing up for fighters' rights, for you to go and sign your support to this bill is disgusting. I hope that you can change your mind and do everything you can to stop it. Now, the next vote for the Athletic State Commissions is November 18th. I need all of you to call into this public meeting. You can get the information on the Colorado State Athletic Commission website. Call in or WebEx in and voice your opposition to this bill for all of the reasons that I just provided. They are trying to enslave boxing. They are trying to enslave Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, grappling as a whole. They are also planning to enslave freestyle wrestling. They want everything. They want everyone, and we are the only people here to stand against them. Most people will not be still listening to me. Most people do not care about the plight of the fighters. If you're still listening, you're a real one. I thank you and I appreciate you, and I need your support. I need your help. Share this to as many people as you can. Spread this message in every single way that you can. And please sign the petition. We need to kill the so-called Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. Muhammad Ali would roll in his grave at this. It's disgusting, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you for listening.